What's up, and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today we're continuing our Christopher Nolan rewatch marathon with his fifth film, Inception. A film that I've reviewed twice before. The first time that I reviewed it was in 2013. The second time was in 2017. Both were written reviews on my website, and both got the same perfect score of 100%. Today will be my third review, and it once again received a perfect 100% score, which is going to be tricky for my Christopher Nolan ranking video, because it scored exactly the same in every category and subcategory as The Dark Knight, meaning they technically tie. But I'll have to come up with a reason for one to beat the other. So similar to my review of The Dark Knight and The Prestige, I'll be breaking this down based on my rating categories because there's just too many things to point out here. But don't worry, after reviewing it so many times, I feel like I'm an aficionado on the subject. Let's get cracking. This review is brought to you by the word of the day, aficionado, a person who likes, knows about, and appreciates an usually fervently pursued interest or activity. Inception tells the story of a group of expertly trained dream extractors, that is, people that enter into other people's dreams and steal their secrets to sell to the highest bidder. When Cobb, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, is hired to perform Inception, that is, planning an idea into somebody else's mind, he's a bit hesitant because that kind of job is not only nearly impossible, but it's also unimaginably dangerous too. One thing that I love about this film is the fact that they could have made a movie work just as well if it was just the extraction bit. That alone works wonders, but because Christopher Nolan took it that further step by introducing Inception in the mix, well, that just solidified this film as just another perfect contribution to the history of film, of screenwriting, of just anything, really. Every name that you see in the end credits here for Inception, they all did a remarkable job. Let's start with the people category, going over the subcategories for acting, characters, casting, individual importance of each characters, and their chemistry together. Each of these subcategories is ranked 4 out of 4 possible stars because they all stood out as perfect, something that's actually hard to get right for a movie project this big. The acting stands out to me particularly from DiCaprio, but everybody does a great job. They all have a range, they're all very believable and compelling when it comes down to those emotions that they're challenged with expressing. Going back to DiCaprio, I actually believe that he deserved an Oscar for this role, as it's probably my favorite role and performance of his that I've ever seen, though some others come pretty darn near close too. Character-wise, every time that I watch the movie, I'm impressed. Each character is independently memorable because everybody is there for a reason. They're all independently contributing to the plot because each one has a different yet unique skill set that is vital to the team's succession. So that's full points to both characters and importance. Casting-wise, this is darn near an ensemble film filled with faces you'll recognize, and that's not always something that wins me over. In fact, it almost always does the opposite. I don't usually like ensemble films, but everybody more or less feels born for their respective roles, made even more clear by the fact that they all had such great chemistry working together. So that's perfect points in the casting and chemistry as well, so full points to people category. Next up is the writing category, covering the dialogue, balance or pacing of the film, story depth, originality, and how interesting the concept is, which basically means two things. Does it interest you enough to watch it, and does it keep that interest peaked throughout? Again, everything here got full points. Each subcategory was scored 2 out of 2 possible stars because, again, everything stood out as immaculate. But the thing about this category specifically is that it relies pretty heavily on the audience to pay really close attention and not look away. It's filled with a lot of necessary exposition, which to some people may be a bit convoluted and confusing, especially if they aren't giving the movie 100% of their attention. To me, that means dialogue gets perfect points because it was just so smart. The dream rules it constantly has always impresses me because, in part, the movie explains what dreams are and how they work in a way that you'll recognize. It's a movie, yeah, but every now and then you'll be like, wait, hold on a second. I've had a dream exactly like this in the past. And that's the point. It also wants to bend the rules and make you question what's real, and if your perception of reality is actually any different than the real tangible world, and if it actually even matters. There's a lot of really deep, thought-provoking moments in the film that gets even deeper when you think about it. That's dialogue and story depth. The pacing of the film kind of works hand in hand with the editing, especially for Inception, so I'll talk about editing in the next category, but the pacing was perfect in my opinion because there was honestly no other way to tell the story as effective as it did here. Originality, that's the biggest thing about this movie. It's wholly original, and you know it when you see it. I don't care so much about 100% originality anymore, as I can award full points to a movie if their approach is original. But I do want to give credit where it's due and say that this is indeed wholly original, and that deserves mad props. As for keeping the interest, I'm not even going to acknowledge that right now as a real question, so full points in the writing department. Next up is the BTS category, behind the scenes, going over visuals, cinematography, editing, advertisement, and the music or sound. Again, perfect points in all of these subcategories because something about each subcategory impressed me. Real quickly now, the visuals were great for several reasons. I mean, the bending, spinning, contorting infrastructures that basically creates a signature look for the movie is great, but it's more than that. The movie looks beautiful when it's not even trying to, and that has to do with lighting and color, production design, and the like. It's unmistakable. When you watch this film, you know that you're watching Inception. Cinematography and camera work, all very well done here, especially right smack dab in the middle of the film when the team are in the second level of a dream within a dream. So pretty much everything that happens in that dream world is amazing. Editing is one of the biggest draws for the film, as it has to seamlessly tell a story that makes sense on 3 or 4 different planes of consciousness and sync them all in a way that works like a beautifully choreographed dance, even though time works different on each level. It's incredible, it really is. And the music or sound, again, there's something very rich about the soundtrack that is unmistakable and operates like a signature where you can close your eyes and just listen to the soundtrack and you would know exactly what you're listening to. Full points to BTS. Next is the narrative arc, going over introduction, inciting incident, obstacles, climax, and resolution. I won't spend too much time here as most people don't actually care so much about this. I have it in here not to claim if their introduction or whatever else is made well. I have it in here just to see if it's there or not, because too many movies skip certain parts here, which is a huge risk to other aspects of the film. Thankfully for Inception, it does have everything. It's actually relatively simple. The introduction does a great job introducing you to the characters, to the world, and its rules, because it starts off with a dream extraction, one that you wouldn't mind watching an entire movie of. The inciting incident is when Cobb is offered the Inception job itself. The obstacles are a number of events that go from the planning stages to the actual dreams and the steps that the team take in order to hopefully succeed at Inception. The climax is incredibly powerful, and the resolution does exactly what I want a good resolution to do: calm down, take a breather, and return to a new sense of norm. It does all of this and much more. Full points to the narrative arc. Are you guys still with me? I know it's a long video. Everything that I've scored up to this point makes up the technical unbiased score of 50 out of 50 possible stars, or a 100%. Next, we're looking at the bias score, which is taken from 2 rating categories: entertainment and specialty. These are the categories that will differ the most depending on the viewer. It's not as universally acknowledged as the subcategories that come before it, hence why I call it biased. The entertainment category covers rewatchability, how much of a good time you have while watching it, your impulse to buy it or own the movie, your impulse to talk about it or recommend it to others, and how engaging it is, which means if you have to take a pee break, do you feel like you'll miss something vital? It doesn't really matter if you do miss something vital, only if you feel like you will. And again, full points to all these subcategories. I've seen the movie as is, most likely around 6 times. It feels like a movie that I would tell others I've seen at least 100 times. I mean, that's just not accurate. I have seen it several times, though, because it's a really fun, smart movie. So rewatchability and fun experience, full points. As for impulse to buy or own it, I already own it, but if I didn't, I would feel a little empty inside and feel the need to buy it, full points. Impulse to talk about or recommend, if somebody I knew hadn't seen it, I'd tie them to a chair and force them to watch it. They'd thank me later. Full points. And engaging. Like I said, the movie requires 100% of your attention, so yeah, full points to that, and full points for the entertainment category overall. The specialty category goes over your expectations, and this is probably the most subjective category of the bunch, as it changes depending on the film. I mean, what do you expect out of Inception? For me, I expect greatness because of Christopher Nolan. I'm always interested to see what DiCaprio is doing in something else, and I watch it specifically for the dream rules, all of which get full points, because I consider this one of Christopher's best films, if not the best. Same with DiCaprio. And I've never quite seen another movie or TV show approach the dream world's rules like the way this movie does. The last subcategory is halfway decent. Did they make the movie that they intended to make for their intended target audience? Absolutely, that deserves credit all on its own. So again, the specialty category got full points, meaning that if we go back to the final score, the bias categories were also scored 50 out of 50 possible stars, or 100%. And when we average the two scores together, we come to a final score of 100%, another perfect film. Thinking back to both movies and TV shows alike, I have this thing where I think there's one TV show and one movie to be the best ever. As far as technicalities go, I can sit here and say that I might think Inception is the best movie to have ever been made. I can say the same thing about Breaking Bad as the best TV show ever made. But neither is my favorite. I've seen Breaking Bad like once, while I've seen other imperfect shows like Smallville, Prison Break, and 24 multiple times. I've seen Inception quite a few times, but given the choice between this movie and, I don't know, Liar Liar, I might choose the latter because I love lighter and funnier movies, even though it's not exactly perfect or anything. I'm weird like that. But I can still sit here and say I think Inception is absolutely a perfect film and quite possibly the best movie ever made. Take that as you will and tell me your thoughts on the film in the comments down below. Do you think it really is a masterpiece, or do you think it's overhyped, and why? Let me know, and as for YouTube, you know what to do. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this review, because there's always more like it coming out. Hit the subscribe button and bell to be notified when I come out with my next Christopher Nolan review, which is supposed to be The Dark Knight Rises. And until then, peace out!